So good morning. It's Mikko Rekola from Woolman, hosting this webinar together with my colleague Teemu Tolonen. Just checking that everything is fine, sound is working, and yep, looks good here. Feel free to address any questions during this webinar. There is the chat window. We will cover all of your questions by the end of this session. So be brave, ask us anything, and we will be delighted to ask you all of your questions. I'm super happy to see many participants, many familiar faces, but also some faces new to us. So therefore, I would love to present first Woolman, then talk about us a tiny bit, and after that, then jump directly to the actual topic of today. So yeah, we're Woolman. We're Europe's biggest Shopify Plus partner. We offer all sort of Shopify solutions aiming at offering like direct-to-consumer solution for brands to grow and get global. So we are all about growth. And me as a lead growth hacker with my team, we operate in close contact with our brands to generate as much growth as possible. And that's the main like reason for Woolman to exist, that we help brands to sell directly with Shopify-based solutions, and we are willing to find growth for all of our clients online and with certain omnichannel solutions, as with Shopify Plus included. And I will have also my colleague Teemu Tolonen here. Many of you might know him from our sales, but he is also a direct consumer merchant with his own Spey Brothers brand. And he will then later on cover the case. What did he learn during last spring? What kind of feelings did that leave? And what are the key takeaways? Myself, I will cover this from a bigger perspective. Since last spring, I was in touch with our clients. We have many clients. The base is growing rapidly, and we have been selling them different kind of growth services, which you can also find online from our store. And helping them to grow, whether it's that we are hiring a merchant, whether it's that we are helping with performance marketing, some growth hacking mechanics, or whatever that is. So I've gone through the data with these clients together, and now I've like summed that as a report. And now today, the reason why we are here is that I will cover what we learned together with our clients last spring in Finland, in Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Netherlands, Germany, and so on. So helping you there. And the big question here is how to react to second wave of COVID. As we already know, the situation is very much on again. If you have looked at the news lately from France, Italy, hopefully it won't be as bad in the Nordic countries, but you never know. So what this actually means is that we have to be prepared. We have to know what's happening, what's going on. So providing you the key takeaways, and after that I will hand it out over to Teemu, and Teemu will then discuss more of a merchant's perspective, and also that what kind of feelings did this kind of situation leave for him, and how did he react when the situation was at its worst. So that's about that. Finally, we will have a Q&A possibility. You can ask us any questions. Feel free to use the chat window, address all the questions there, and we will then cover them by the end of this session. Hold tight. So as you know, the times have gotten much more uncertain. Since late February, early March, the world has changed a lot. And this is something that we see on daily basis, on hourly basis. Many of our merchants and clients were surprised by the situation, as were like many of our own Woolman employees. We didn't see this coming, but we had to adapt super fast. For our business, it was a pretty good situation because we got like tons of new clients, and existing clients wanted to focus on e-commerce. So that's very much of a positive, and we also see as a positive that e-commerce was the actual winner of the situation. For many of our clients, their own direct-to-consumer store was the only way to communicate with their clients, and they tried to max that to keep the business going and then floating so that they wouldn't think like some brands did. And the impacts were like major. When it comes to the behavior of people in online stores, we noticed immediately with our clients that there were groups of new persons there who had never ever been shopping there, whether it was like older folk shopping for groceries or younger folk shopping for all sort of stuff when they just get the payment card or whatever to their possession, Visa Electron or whatever, they were able to shop online. So we noticed that there was much more traffic in the majority of our client stores. This of course didn't then always like impact sales, but in many cases it did. But the thing is that we learned that the world is now more unpredictable. We don't know what will happen next. We don't know what will happen in the future. So it's better to be as agile as possible and also have several different kind of plans for the future so that you are not relying only on a simple plan. So the big question now is that what did we learn? What did we learn with our clients, and what kind of advice we can give to all of you, whether that you are a merchant, you are a brand owner, you are working in a corporation and you have an e-commerce team, these takeaways are for you. So I've gathered all of the data here to these bullet points, and I will shortly discuss these. So what we learned from all the massive amount of data and discussions with the merchant and their clients was pretty much the following. The basic thing here was to be active. We noticed that some of our clients decided to stay very passive. They were waiting what the Prime Minister would announce. They were waiting if they would get some support from the government or different instances. But the issue was that they decided to be all passive. They didn't change anything in their marketing. They didn't change anything in their communication. They weren't active in their e-commerce. And then later on, when we looked at the data, these were also the companies that did the worst. And I'm not saying that all of the active companies did good, but they did much better than those who were just like frozen and didn't act upon the situation. So my recommendation also for the second wave is to be active, not just to wait, but also try to analyze things, come up with different kind of ideas and suggestions, and be somewhat proactive, because this might mean in the end that you are sort of like maximizing your own possibilities with the business. Second thing, super important, probably one of my favorite own favorites and favorite topics definitely is that trust the data and remember to measure data. So this is the topic that with my personal clients, this was the hardest topic since last spring until this summer. So we had merchants who have all the data. They are running Shopify or Shopify Plus. They have analytics. They have different kind of dashboards. They have lots of data in their hands. But for some reason, the majority forgot to measure. They didn't react on the data. And then my job with my team was saying that, hey, have you noticed that you have 80% of more visitors? Oh, have you noticed that 30% of your visitors are coming with desktop devices? Oh, did you notice that your average order is doubling or going down by 38%? So you have the data. And for some reason, like human beings, when you're anxious, when you're under stress, you just try to focus on certain topics, and seems to me that measuring isn't one of them. So this is something that we very much highlighted with our clients, that it's super important to measure. And in many cases, that meant that they had to adjust when it came to the selection of items available, pricing, and especially all sort of campaigns and events that were going online. And you can do those decisions definitely based on your gut feeling, but that's not the thing that you should do, because that should always be data driven, especially when you have the best tools on the market to react with this kind of data. So just remember to measure. even though you would have a busy time, even though you would hit your sales record, or the opposite, you would have like completely frozen sales. Usually the wisdom comes from data, doing some sort of analysis, and then trying to act upon the situation, not just doing very like agile moves without understanding that what's actually happening in my own store. Third thing, this is super interesting. So the majority of our clients have also a variety of brick and mortar locations. It's either their own stores or resellers. And that was a struggle because those items were frozen. They couldn't get any of those items to be sold online, or the stores were still open, but there were barely any visitors. So we helped with many of them, especially the biggest ones, to move their brick and mortar stock to their warehouse to be able to sell those with Shopify and Shopify Plus solutions, so that you actually got your goods to the clients, and quite many were even like giving sort of like high sales percentages, but that was still better than staying frozen and waiting at what will happen. This was especially bad in fashion business, seasonal fashion, that if you would have like winter clothing or spring clothing, nobody will pay the full price like next season for those items. So there it's probably most important just to maximize the cash flow, and then try to figure out the situation and just to wait. Fourth topic is to communicate with your core values and show that you care. I'm super proud of many of our brands that they did this. So they sort of like tuned up this message that best brands have some sort of reason to exist. The reason isn't that I'm making money or I have items. The reason is that what's behind the company. And they were very bold with these values. They kept communicating these values, even though they were in the eye of the storm. And this is something that I truly recommend. So if you don't have any values, if you are just selling like goods, you are in a very troublesome situation. Maybe it would be still like kind of okay business model for many of discounters, multi-brand discounters and these discount chains. But all the rest, you have to have some sort of core message. You have to keep communicating with that, because that gives you strength and power. And that's something that clients then want to see and hear. Then finally, again, one topic that gave us at least lots of struggle in the whole Nordic area, but also with our global clients in the States, Canada, and so on. So dare to spend the customer acquisition and retention. So what we noticed during last sprint and during that data gathering we did now during this summer, and after that, was that there were much more people on social media. People were at their homes, at their laptops. They were spending more time in front of their devices. And this was an incredible possibility for e-commerces to get more visitors in, to do targeted marketing there based on lifetime value, based on different kind of segmentation, all of these like very typical direct consumer topics. But too many were just quiet. The actual trend that we noticed that roughly 1/3 or even a bit more than that decided to cut off their paid marketing. They were decreasing their marketing costs. And this is a way that I understand that, okay, if you are in a corporation and the CEO decided to cut all the costs, then that's a troublesome situation. And you should try to argument that, hey, I need that money because that's the only channel that is making us cash flow. And that's the only channel that was working during last sprint. I also know this, if you are a smaller merchant, this is a very tough situation because you are pretty much living with very little budget. So then you are trying to maximize it upon your hand at what to do with the money. But our cases that we were doing definitely noticed that if you are doing customer acquisition on a good level with a specialist or a partner, that made sense. And I would even say that more than half of our clients were increasing their marketing spend, because at least on platforms such as Facebook and Instagram, advertising was very cheap. Many of the big global brands decided to break with their marketing playbook, and this meant that you were able to gain lots of visitors inside your store, and having some sort of like well-done campaigns at that time was very good strategy. And now looking at the situation, you got lots of new clients in, and then in most cases you were able to sell more items now during the summer or especially this season. So in e-commerce you also understand that it's good to get person purchase once, then you have the data, and once you are not probably aiming at single purchase, but that can help your internal marketing to get going, and then you understand a bit better about different profiles. Then finally, the final topic, my other favorite, scenario analysis. I don't know if you're familiar with the topic. It was something that OPEC countries back in the days used to do, because they were the only who could afford it, and they were like thinking about the scenarios. What will happen in the future? What kind of like things will happen when it comes to politics, when it comes to businesses, when it comes to the like upcoming years and decades. And this is also something that I would advise all of you to consider and look for. There are some excellent articles online and in the literature regarding this topic. So plan ahead, come with the fact that there might be the future that you are not like anticipating. There might be some changes, so it's good to have some sort of like different plans, plan B, plan C, plan D. And this is something that we noticed that especially in the youngest merchants we have. So new brands, very brave, direct to consumer since day one. They were very agile and they were able to jump. They canceled some of the campaigns. They did start with new campaigns. They did some major changes to their business. And then looking at the corporations, there was like almost nothing going on. And then they decided after 2 months that, hey, let's have a campaign, a single campaign. So there you can see pretty rough difference between these two segments. This is everything put together, 53 brands, and we can actually like decide that there are like three different brackets, and 2 of them were like major. If you look at the orange one, that's typically a business that had something to do with groceries, food services, food delivery services, online pharmacies, some specific homeware and decor businesses, and some very specific like electronics or home office good delivery businesses, and everything that had to do with the home office decoration, chairs, tables, everything that was related. They were just like growing like so rapidly that they even ended up issues with all of this demand. Then there is the single segment in between, and that was actually one of the most narrow segments here, and that was a segment that didn't see that much of an impact. Typically sales went either up or down by a bit, and then the situation was pretty much the same, but this was the smallest impact. For the majority, either the demand was going heavily up or heavily down, sinking really rapidly. And the latest segment, I'm afraid, is the one that was sinking a lot. Here were some fashion businesses that were selling tickets to physical events, business that had to do something with, as example, group sports or seasonal sports like soccer shoes, or businesses that had to do with some sort of like group sport or situation. Those were having the issue, and by average, many clothing businesses were also in this segment, and that was like sort of a disaster. Quite many of them have been able to recover now during the summer. That's a good sign, but that was really like a bump in the road for them, and that might mean a lot also for the future. But what we noticed here is that this was definitely like unfair. People keep asking me that, Mikko, it's not fair. Yeah, it definitely wasn't fair. There were stores and businesses that were like booming and others were like sinking, and then there was this very narrow category that had some sort of like small changes, but nothing that they would actually notice when it comes to their visitors or sales. And now giving you 3 takeaways with our clients. What could we learn? And first is a healthcare and supplement business selling with Shopify Plus, have done amazing job growing really rapidly already before COVID. And the feedback we then got from the owners and the merchants were that they were completely surprised by this demand. They were all stunned that the demand went up like 500%, 800% per day. And they were like, oh my, what should I do? And the thing was that, hey, they decided that let's close marketing campaigns. We have an issue. We have an issue at the warehouse. We have an issue to monitor these orders and fulfill them. And they then decided that they should have had some sort of like scenario plan for this kind of situation where the demand goes so heavily up. And the thing that they learned then later on, that they should have changed the way the warehouse operates, that they should have had like double working shifts, they should have planned things better. They were completely surprised by this demand, and they decided to close the marketing campaigns, decrease the marketing budget for up to several weeks before being able to increase the budget again. And the most important comment I got from the merchant was that later on I forgot to be human. We ended up being just like machines operating, and she meant by that that's something that they had in their internal communication. They didn't really like forget to be kind to each other, to be like flexible with each other. And same actually happened, I'm afraid, with the customer service. So that became just like a machine process, and people were of course asking like crazy about missing goods and the fact that why are you not shipping this item, or why is your hand sanitizer out of stock. So that is something that they now learned, and they decided that when the second wave comes, they will be much better with this situation. And then another topic, and I'm honestly like super proud of this one. This is a kids wear brand, one of the biggest ones in this Nordic market, been growing a lot and selling mainly through their own direct-to-consumer store. If I remember right, up around 80% of their sales is coming from their own Shopify store. And they told us immediately that they started to plan virtual events. Up to 30% of their sales come from different kind of events they had. They had to cancel all of those events due to the situation. They had even one event that weekend when the COVID hit, at least here in Finland, and that was like a disaster in sales. But then they were like, okay, we need to reconsider this. We need to have online events. And that actually saved their business in a sense, and that made sure that they were able to sell as much as possible also online and to get people to visit their store. It in most cases needs some sort of like excuse, and if the excuse is well done, a virtual event, then that's almost excellent. And another thing that I really know is that pretty much every single brand here could take some advantage, is that be bold in your communication, use your core values during the dark weeks. And this is something that they did really well. They are like value driven business that you can see everywhere, and they just kept pushing that. They even like tune the volume up a bit with that, and that was something that people felt that, hey, I'm having a bad day, I'm definitely having a bad situation here, but there are still some who are willing to make the world a bit better place. And that was like excellent in sense of communication. And then finally, another fashion brand, more traditional brand, pretty big still, selling direct to consumer, but they have lots of resellers and own network with several like physical locations. So they actually read one of our blog posts during the spring, and they had been like debating internally that should they move their brick and mortar items to their online store, to their Shopify Plus warehouse. And they decided finally, after this long debate and the blog post they read from our blog, that hey, now it's the time to act. So it's like now everything or then nothing, and let's go for it. And they decided to do that, and they moved up to 90% of their clothing and accessories to their Shopify store and started like massive campaigns there. And this, the feedback we received from their CEO was this actually saved our year, and this most likely even sort of like saved our business. and the year is like ultra demanding for them, and in many possible ways that was like super tough situation for them, and they of course had to sell these items with some sales and some good deals there, but still like getting rid of the items, getting some cash flow in, save the situation. In comparison, they would have just been in the brick and mortar stores waiting for the summer sales season. So this made their spring much more reliable. They could estimate the situation better, and at least according to them, they were able to sell much more than what they would have done if they would have just been waiting. And they also noticed that this was a different situation comparing to all of their competition. So their competitors didn't do that as much. They were sold out with many items. They were just waiting for the situation, waiting for the physical locations to open. And as we noticed, that was not that smart of a move. And then next, something that is super important. If you want to learn something from today, it has to be this: how to communicate during a crisis. So there is an excellent link. You will get this material after this session. Feel free to read it. It's a very good article. They are done with some actual case examples from the US market. And thinking that what should a marketer do in this kind of situation. So don't forget how human beings react to a crisis. This means that your communication has to be aligned with the situation. And this was at least something that we noticed with our growth team, that this was pretty horribly done with many brands. As example, there were brands who were like still running the exactly same campaigns they had planned. They had changed nothing. If it would have been on their roadmap, they were just going with it. They were celebrating the Easter. They were doing everything as in normal situation. But the thing was that the word around them was everything else than normal. So the best trick here is to change the ads, change the campaigns, change the ad copies, email topics, everything. So when we look now at the situation and the data, those who were able to adapt to the situation were actually doing like, or even financially much better, and they were receiving like much more better like NPS figures in their customer service during the summer than those who didn't. And I will now show you an actual example. So Anton, one of our long-term growth service client, is a premium grocery chain here in the greater Helsinki area, offering 3 physical locations and then pioneering in food home deliveries with these like ready-made grocery bags, which you can then cook yourself. Everything is in the bag and you just have to cook it. A specialist has made you the plan and you just follow that one. And honestly, they were like great winners of the situation. People had to stay at their homes with their kids. They couldn't go anywhere. Some were even anxious to go to physical locations whatsoever. So they receive lots of demand in like this grocery bag product category. However, what we noticed together with them was that people were still like super anxious. They complained that, yeah, I got the groceries, but I don't feel like cooking. I'm stressed. I'm feeling bad. I don't want to cook. Could you offer me something more advanced and further developed? And pretty agile way of this was that, hey, Anton had their own kitchen. They had tremendous food specialists cooking food there for their physical locations. That what if we could sell them like ready-made meals straight delivered to your home door, easy, tasty, healthy, delicious. So why not? And the thing that we realized here was that many of their competitors selling different kind of services, food-related services online, didn't adapt to the situation. If you looked at their marketing, they were like, let's cheer for the weekend, let's have a fun Easter together, let's smile together and stuff like that. But the issue was that the word had changed. People didn't feel like that. The communication they did wasn't at all like aligned with the situation, how people felt. So based on the feedback we then received, we did this kind of like campaign together with the new service. We kept it very straight, simple, cheerful color, ready-made food bag, 8 meals, all prepared, just eat, new item, new service, get this straight delivered to your home door, and click the ad. And this was a tremendous success. So we understood the market together with the client much better than the competitors did. And we were able, with slight process, to make it more agile. And most importantly, we communicated this right. Simplify things. Try to wake up positive emotions if the world is bad around you. Offer solutions or getaway moments. This is something that many of our clothing businesses then very well did, that, hey, have a nice moment. You have been struggling, you have been barely sleeping, offer something else, offer something fun, and doing some online shopping or checking for new prints or new seasonal items might be just that. Then be bold and honest. Also super important that honesty is so important during tough times. And then try the most important thing here, dare to scrap or former plans and campaigns if required. So if the world changes around you, don't push further, change, be able to adjust and change. And finally, take this all into consideration. We're looking now at the new season. And I will give you 3 steals for the situation for all of your marketing, especially when you are doing paid marketing, performance marketing, where you want to maximize the results. The steal number 1 is don't show that you are struggling. If your business is struggling, if you have too much stock, don't tell that directly to the clients. We noticed some cases in e-commerce who did that, and they were like, oh my, we are in struggle, we have too many items in stock, our CEO is not happy with the situation. And then those ads were showing to people who might have had COVID, who might have lost their jobs and stuff like that, and they got lots of really bad feedback. So that was not the way to do it. Then second steal, be careful with all sort of humor you use. So make sure that that's not offensive and that's not something that wouldn't fit the situation. Try to understand how other human beings are feeling and make sure that your campaigns are aligned with this situation. And then finally, most important, measure, measure, measure. You should always measure when it comes to advertising and when it comes to the whole e-commerce experience, what's happening inside my own store. I cannot be bold enough to repeat this. So always remember to measure. So that happened with many of our clients, that they were just running campaigns, but it was pretty much our growth teams tasked to report those for the merchant. But the merchant and the online managers have to know what's happening with their own business. And then I want to thank on my behalf. I will still be here answering to all of your questions and now handing out an actual case. And my dear colleague, Teemu Tolonen, feel free.
Thank you, Mikko. Thank you for the great 25 minutes or half an hour. And good morning, everyone. I'm going to be talking about a little bit about my company or other company. So I'm a partner. I'm working for Woolman, and we're going to do a quick discussion and presentation about my fly fishing e-commerce business called the Spey Brothers. Alexi, thank you. Now we have the right slide over here. So the company, the brand, it's a really niche inside a niche. So it's kind of really focused on dedicated salmon fly fishers. So these are the guys, all the girls who go fly fishing for Atlantic salmon inside Norway, Iceland, Russia. They spend quite a lot of money in the sport, in the traveling, in the gear, in the services that they can buy at the locations. And I think I kind of came out with the concept 3 years ago because I had the passion for the sport. I needed to do something. I think there was a gap. If somebody 3 years ago would have told me that how much work this would require, I might have reconsidered. But then again, when when you have the passion, when you have the drive, then you don't count the hours that you have to work for the passion. And it's kind of getting out there as we speak. So we're doing probably 6 figures this year, even though the year wasn't kind of the easiest one for us. And just kind of that you have a feeling about the business. There's nobody else working for the business. So it's run by me and me only, sometimes during the nights and the weekends or early mornings. And that's it. And we kind of we had a great start in the year. I think at the end of February we were doing 115% in growth compared to last year. I was really excited that we were kind of getting all the signals early on in the year that we're gonna have a great year. And then all of a sudden, I think it was the last or the second of last week in February, basically the sales stopped. This was kind of the moment when we felt that there's a lot of confusion going on in the people's head. That's what's going to happen. This was the time when they started to realize that, oh my, I won't be able to travel anywhere. And my business, it's not a travel business, but if the people want to go fishing for salmon, usually you have to travel somewhere to a location where the salmon exists. So Norway, Iceland, Russia, those kind of locations. And this kind of made an effect that people started to realize that they might not have a fishing season for salmon at all. And we realized pretty quickly that we're going to kind of have a intermediary year. We were planning to do a lot of new product launches. We were planning to increase the inventory. We were kind of getting the signals earlier on in the year that it's going to be great. But then with all the confusions, all the unknowns, we didn't basically have any other choice than to kind of cut down on the purchase planning, make sure that when anything happens, at least we're going to have cash left to build the business again, or do new campaigns, do new product launches, if there are some signs during the season that this might just kind of go away, and then we could keep pushing. And we did a lot of work with the paid ads in Facebook. So kind of, I'm going to show you in the next slide a bit more detailed what the figures look like. But we did a lot of short-term work. Like before the COVID, I think I was pretty lazy with the paid ads. I was updating the campaigns probably once every 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And now with the COVID and kind of things switching pretty rapidly, we were doing micromanagement, or we were kind of adjusting the ads quite a lot on a weekly basis, sometimes even on daily basis. And if you have a look on the analytics, this is kind of the rounded numbers that I created last night from the spring and the summer. But this is basically what happened is that the sales came down mostly because of the conversion almost split in half. So we were getting traffic. We were actually getting quite a good numbers of traffic, probably because people were working from homes. They could sneak in during the day, even during the business hours, and then visit our site. But the conversion was bad. They were not buying. I made sure that there wasn't technically any performance issues on the site. We were using Lucky Orange to kind of record the sessions, make sure that everything is in order. We were kind of happy with the performance. We were happy with the content. We had already done new product launches, so there was kind of stuff that we were pretty sure that the customers were interested in, but they were just not buying. But the good news was that with kind of things we could do inside Shopify, meaning that we did bundled products, we did post-purchase upsells, we were able to kind of keep the average order value to be pretty constant, roughly on the same level, around 70 or 80 euros, 75 euros. And kind of with the work that we did, we soon realized that there are customers somewhere in the world that haven't seen our brand and love it. So we were kind of broadening the customer base, or the audience space that we were showing our ads to. And what happened pretty quickly was that we were kind of generating a better return on ad spend in the new customer acquisition campaigns than compared to the retargeting campaigns, which was kind of out of the ordinary. Until now, we would be pushing the easy clicks to the shop with the new customer acquisition campaigns, and the retargeting funnel was kind of gathering the sales from there, but it switched. So like we realized that we needed to kind of get the traffic. We knew that the bad conversion wasn't because of us, it was because of the situation, and kind of work a lot more to get the same sales than we did last year. And we were kind of waiting all the time to have a feeling, have a vibe on the customers, that what they do, how they react. We had a consistent communications, and we were kind of promoting all the time that the fact that, okay, if you can't go fishing this year, we're going to go fishing next year, and it's just 1 year, and kind of keeping a positive vibe. We didn't want to play the pity card that Mikko mentioned. We didn't want to say anything negative that, okay, this is really awful. We were kind of pushing out the positive feedback that the world is opening up. Everybody is going to be able to go fishing. It's going to be this year. It's going to be next year. And finally, in August, a lot of the Scandinavian and European countries opened up their borders, and we could see an immediate effect in sales. So August was already 50% better than last year. And we're kind of slowly getting the normal conversion, normal being somewhere around 1.5%. And we're kind of getting there. And then now I'm estimating that we're going to probably do 20-25% growth during this year. And this is part of the same message that you might have already heard from Mikko, but I would absolutely say that the timing and reacting at the right moment is the key. So when the fall season starts now, or the winter or the Christmas, I think we're going to see a lot of ups and downs. We're going to see a lot of different messages coming out from the decision makers, the politicians. We're going to see layoffs. We're going to see good times or good weeks. And I think that the key for us, for our business, and then for many businesses, to kind of be really ears on and adapt and try to feel what's happening. And then you should be able to do quick decisions based on those feelings, based on the data that you have. And the only thing that I wouldn't absolutely quit or kind of leave out of the focus is always the customer acquisition. I stopped purchasing heavy inventory, but I didn't stop doing customer acquisition. I was sure that there was going to be people who will buy our stuff. We just need to find the right people. And never ever don't let the panic spread. Like, I don't think that it's ever a good idea to communicate to the customers on a way that you are in trouble, that or the market isn't behaving in a way that you want it to. Even if you need to do kind of a campaign where you need to do flash sales or fire sales and get rid of the inventory, kind of create the campaign in a way that the customer doesn't know that you are doing the campaign in order to save your business. Keep it positive. Perfect. That was my quick 10 minutes regarding my business and the kind of the feelings and the ideas that we had. We have officially 11 minutes left in the webinar, and the chat window is open for questions. So anything you want to ask regarding the COVID, the performance marketing, or Shopify, please feel free to shoot and Mikko, and I will be here available. Thank you.
Can't see any questions here. If you want to ask anything from us also after this session, feel free. You can be in touch with us or our services. On my behalf, I wish you a really nice day. Good luck with your business. Let's stay in touch. Take care. Bye-bye.